So, Oscar, a lot of times in the context of MES, you hear people talking about OEE. And as I'd mentioned during the introduction, that's a topic that I'd like to cover with you. But of course, that means overall equipment effectiveness. What does that have to do with MES and how do they relate? What's the relationship between the two?
Yeah. OEE is an interesting one because we do hear people say, well, I'm looking for an OEE system, and not truly understanding that it's one of many metrics. OEE is generally a term that looks at the data in a very defined way. I once had a plant manager tell me that with effective OEE numbers, he not only could see if his factory was productive, but also could keep on schedule and make all of his customers happy. So OEE, as you said, overall equipment effectiveness, is a measurement of several key production metrics. Right? A score of 100, sometimes expressed as 100%, is perfect. Generally, if you're at 85, it's considered world class. That's where you're trying to get to. But honestly, most chime in at about 60%. Let me explain why a little bit. We'll take some kind of numbers here and put them together, and you can see how this works.
Sounds good.
So there are three numbers. One of them is availability. So it's the total runtime, just runtime, okay, divided by the time the equipment was available. So if my machine was available 24 hours a day and I only got 18 hours of runtime out of it, I'd be at 75%. Okay, not a terrible number. I wish my kids got at least that in school. But anyway. Performance measures the output of the equipment. So this involves, which sometimes is a mystery, which is the ideal value, okay, which is how fast that piece of equipment can actually run. So if you take that ideal time and you multiply it by the total quantity, now this is total count, good and scrap, and then divide this by your runtime, which we used back in availability, then you get this performance number. So another example might be if my ideal cycle rate is 1 second per piece, and I multiply that times the 59,000 pieces I got today. I think if number of seconds in a day, 86,000, something like that. So let's say I got 59,000 pieces out today, and I divide that by the 18 hours that I work. Well, that's about 91. Very, very good score. Gets you an A in school. Okay, so we got a good number there. Now we have to look at the quality, our third metric. So now we have the good divided by the total. Pretty simple number here. So we had 59,000 total, only 55,000 were good. I'm going to use that number in my example, which gives us a pretty good percent, which is 93. So I've got really good quality, I've got really good performance, and my availability is not as nice as I'd like to have it. What's interesting about these metrics is, again, on their own, they don't look bad. And on their own, I'd be pretty proud of them. But the overall OEE number is the key. And how you get that is you multiply the three together. Now I have a number that's 63 when I multiply those three together. So now, wait a minute. In school, I went from a C, an A down to a D. So it's a very interesting thing. Now let's do a little tweak here. So even if we add to my availability of the equipment, and instead of 18 hours, I'm going to go to 22 hours. But I'm not going to change anything else. So I'm still producing scrap at the same rate. I'm still producing my output around, just do the math to come out the same things. So I'm still producing at 91%, 93%. Now when I add them together, which I now get 91%, so I have 91, 91, and 93, and I get it up to 77. So the overall OEE number does look a little weird here, but is it an effective metric? Sure. And you can see why the plant manager I spoke about used it as part of a metric for him moving on and on.
Sure.
Well, what's MES's part? Well, it should be collecting this information, right? But the other part is it should be collecting it and a whole lot of other values and a whole lot of other interesting data that you're going to either analyze or you're going to use in graphs and gauges and reports. Industry 4.0 wants to get a hold of all of this. I mean, this is big data.
Yeah, right. So in other words, Oscar, OEE is almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a tool that MES leverages, like Factivity. You through APIs and PLCs and so forth, you can feed the actual, maybe the machine information, into the MES and use that to help create big data, create more data, right? Help put the big picture together.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really the level of data that you're going to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to do it, right? One of the things that has to do with, let's talk about data scientists, right? It's a big career. I wish my kids would have gone after it. But it's a big brain power, and they're using these big BI tools and lots of computing power to figure out all of this stuff across big data.
Yeah.
But then most plants are probably just going to have somebody with an Excel spreadsheet looking at last month's production data that somebody wrote on time cards. Could you come up with OEE on it? Well, yeah. And you probably could get metrics that you could at least see that, well, I probably should start dealing with my scrap and stuff. And I should start dealing with the number of hours I put on the machine.
That was a very helpful definition and explanation, again, of OEE. And so really in terms of the three metrics, right, that determine your OEE score, the availability, performance, and quality, if anyone claims that they can get 100% or they are getting 100% OEE, I guess, score, they're probably not being realistic or even honest. If they're using OEE as a way to determine your availability, performance, and quality.
Yeah. Remember that most see around 60%. Even with my decent numbers that I came up with, I still was only at 63, and I got it up to 75 by increasing my availability. But because I had some other issues I really need to focus on, even though I was at 91 and 93 on that, if I push those numbers up, I could probably get closer. That's why they kind of say 85 is that ideal number you want to try to get to, because I think it's really difficult to get beyond that.
So would you say, based on your 30 years of experience in working with your highest performing organizations, they're typically right around that, 75 to 85%, even for the best of your, performing organizations, or organization performance, I should say?
I'm going to say yes to that, only because I don't want to get in trouble with any of them. Yeah, I believe most of our clients, the reason that they're moving to MES, the reason that they're integrating machines, the reason they're using more Industry 4.0s is to try to get better and better and better.
Yeah. But again, just for our listeners, Factivity, MES, leverages, I guess, this operational data, or OEE, but you integrate through APIs and PLCs to help you collect that information, correct?
Yeah. Part of the Industry 4.0, and the more you can integrate into machines, is a big deal. Yeah. Factivity also has some things that deal with what we call machine monitoring, right? So we're focusing on the operator. Then how can we enhance the operator experience? Can we start to pick up data from machines to enhance what they're doing? So with Factivity machine monitoring, we can connect to the machines through various different methods and start to pick up that data that enhances the operator experience. So now they don't have to come to Factivity and say, I started running, I started some setup, I have a problem here. For using machine monitoring, we can pick that information up and make Factivity push the buttons for them, if you will.
Yeah.
One thing that Factivity does not do is we never ask the operator how long you did something. That's all handled within the product itself. You're just telling Factivity, I'm running now, and go and do your work.
Right.
Or the machine could tell it, Factivity just went into a run status. Okay, so now it'll collect the time for you. And we're trying to make the experience for the operator as simple as we can.